Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea.
This is Voice of Korea. Dear listeners, now we start the English language service of Voice of Korea from Pyongyang, the capital of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Here is a mixed chorus, Song of General Kim Il-sung. economy covers Song of General Kim Jong-il. You're listening to VOK Voice of Korea News Now. The great leader Kim Jong-il made public a lot of works for the strengthening and development of the General Association of Korean Residents in Japan since the publication of its work, Realization of Repatriation of Koreans Resident in Japan to their Socialist Motherland, is a historic event on December 20th, 1948 or 1959. The works, The Formation of the General Association of Korean Residents in Japan, is a brilliant victory for the great leader's idea on the overseas compatriots movement, and the General Association of Korean Residents in Japan should remain loyal to the great leader, deal with the proud cause covered by the movement of Koreans in Japan, and indicate the idea that the General Association should be a patriotic organization and future-oriented organization of overseas compatriots realizing the ideal and leadership of President Kim Il-sung. Other works, including Free Visit of Japan resident Korean nationals to their homeland, must be realized, and on realizing Japan resident Koreans visit the homeland and waging a vigorous struggle for frustrating the South Korea-Japan talks, clarify that the struggle of Korean nationals in Japan for snuffing the disturbance of the Japanese reactionaries and realizing their free visit to the homeland is just and sure to triumph. The work, the General Association of Korean Residents in Japan, should continue to add luster to its honor of being the pioneer in the social-oriented movement of overseas compatriots. It's a historic document that clearly indicates the way for strengthening the organizations of compatriots and enhancing their role, and thus steadily developing the movement of Koreans in Japan. Foreign political party leaders, in their messages and letters sent on the occasion of the 8th anniversary of the demise of the great leader Kim Jong-il, praised his immortal exploits in laying an eternal foundation of prosperity for the Korean people to live happily generation after generation in the whole period of his revolutionary life. The chairman of the Maritime Territorial Branch Committee of Just Russia said that Kim Jong-il is a peerless patriot and benevolent father of the people who devoted his life to the strengthening, development, and prosperity of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and happiness of the people, with warm love for the country and people. The General Secretary of the Workers' Party of the Democratic Congo noted that Kim Jong-il is the eternal General Secretary of the Workers' Party of Korea, and added that he made the Korean People's Army work miracles in the van and energetically led the entire people to make a great leap forward on all fronts of the socialist construction. The acting General Secretary of the African Democratic Union, Democratic Party of Guinea, stressed that Kim Jong-il will remain alive in the hearts of the people, aspiring after peace and justice. Youth and students from across the country on a study tour of the revolutionary battle sites in the area of Mount Baekdu climbed Mount Baekdu, sacred mountain of the revolution, on the 19th. On the top of the mountain, they hardened their iron will to prepare themselves more firmly as those strong in ideology and faith, who are armed with the indomitable revolutionary spirit of the Baekdu, and as brave warriors to accomplish the revolutionary cause of Juche. The Provincial Agricultural Science Institute has been wonderfully rebuilt in North Pyongan Province of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Its scientific research and office building has tens of rooms, including field crop research room, general laboratory, conference room, crop specimen room, and a library, which are fully equipped with many facilities and different kinds of furnishings. The chemical laboratory has many experimental equipment and apparatuses for different kinds of analysis, such as soil analysis. The Modern Agricultural Science Institute will powerfully promote the agricultural development in the province. North Hwanghae Province of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea has produced tens of millions of saplings for forest restoration next year. The province encouraged the forestry management stations to lay firm material and technical foundations of parent tree nurseries and put the sapling production on a more scientific, industrial, and intensive basis. Tosan County built a plastic panel greenhouse at the parent tree nursery by itself to increase the sapling production. The employees of the Forestry Management Station of Singae County grew healthy saplings more than 1.2 times as against before by increasing their rooting rate. Yuntan County produced a lot of saplings of great medicinal value through mass movement. Working people in Songnim City and Chunghwa County spread plenty of quality humus soil on the outdoor cultivation grounds and greenhouses, and cultivated the saplings in a scientific and technological way in conformity with their biological characteristics and the seasonal conditions. The forestry management officials and employees in the province take thorough measures to keep the saplings from being frozen in winter. New research findings have been introduced to education in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The system for verifying the effectiveness of teaching methods based on the education appraisal and prediction technology can correctly evaluate the achievements of students in the higher educational institutions and on its basis predict their future results, making it possible to verify the effectiveness of the teaching methods and improve them. The Paddy Rice Cultivation Expert System program that gives the knowledge of agronomical principles through paddy rice optimum cultivation technical design and growth simulation and diagnosis, and the netting simulation program that suits the characteristics of the shoal of fish, fishing ground, and fishing boat, prove effective in teaching at the universities of agriculture and fisheries in different parts of the country. The educational game, virtual play, and talent appraisal programs also prove effective in the preschool education as they make it possible to develop the observation, thinking, memory, and imagination of the children harmoniously and find out their talents in the bud. Lo Ba Bing, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and Wan Phuoc Viet, military attaché of the Vietnamese Embassy, gave a reception at the Ta Dong Bang Diplomatic Club in Pyongyang on the 19th, on the occasion of the Army Day of Vietnam. Invited to the reception were Colonel General Kim Hyung-ryong, Vice Minister of the People's Armed Forces, General and other officers of the Korean People's Army, officials concerned, and diplomatic representatives of different countries, representatives of international organizations, and military attachés of foreign embassies in the DPRK. Present there were staff members of the Vietnamese Embassy. The delegation of the Laos Korea Friendship Association, led by Chairman Pan Noemani, visited Mangyongdae, the birthplace of the great leader Kim Il-sung. It also visited the Tower of the Tzu Chi Idea, the Youth Movement Museum, and the Ongyo Children's Hospital.
The spokesman for the DPRK Ministry of Foreign Affairs told the Korean Central News Agency on the 21st as regards the U.S. slander of the DPRK's human rights issue. The spokesman said, at an interview with the VRA on the 19th, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Democracy, Human Rights and Labor made outbursts that he expresses apprehensions over the human rights situation of the DPRK and involvement is necessary to change the action of the human rights violating states such as North Korea. Not content with the coercive adoption of the human rights resolution against the DPRK at the plenary meeting of the 74th session of the UN General Assembly, the United States slandered us with the human rights issue. It is a manifestation of the constitutional refusal of our system and the grave political provocation against our state. Such outbursts made when the DPRK-US relations have been at the acutest phase are as good as making matters worse. It will further aggravate the tense situation of the Korean Peninsula. The United States is violating all sorts of human rights, such as murder, rape, racial discrimination, and maltreatment of immigrants. So it has neither justification nor a qualification to meddle in others' affairs. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea is a people-centered socialist state where the entire people are fully enjoying their genuine freedom and rights as masters of the country. Human rights mean the national rights and sovereignty of the country and nation. If the United States attempts to topple our system while slandering its human rights issue, it will pay for it dearly. The U.S. Assistant Secretary of State should wag his tongue properly. No matter how hard a rat may squeak, a cat will never step back. We'll further consolidate and develop the most superior socialist system of our style, which guarantees the human rights of the people by law and in practice.
The South Korean online newspaper Minseok-ilbo said in an editorial on the 14th that the U.S. forces staged North-targeted war drills in South Korea almost every day, escalating the war crisis and testing mass destruction biochemical weapons, seriously threatening the lives of the people. The editorial maintained that the withdrawal of the U.S. forces is a vital and immediate task of the people. According to the South Korean online newspaper Tatsusipo, the Kwang's regional headquarters of the People's Solidarity for Sovereignty held a press conference in front of the U.S. military base in Seongjeong-ri of Gwangju City on the 14th and demanded a deportation of the U.S. ambassador from South Korea.
And that's the end of the news, read by Kim Hyun-up and Chae Jong-nam. This is VRK, Voice of Korea. Now here's a female chorus. How long we have wished to see you. Now here's a light music. We have waited for you. Here is orchestral music and mail cars. We'll travel one road forever. Kim Jong-il Prize Work Laureate. How long should we go through the storm of revolution? The pledge made under the sacred flag burns. Though we live a moment or are born again, we will travel one road forever, following the party-centric committee. appreciate light music for piano. We pledge to dedicate our life. the Korean folk song, Ballad of the 8 Scenic Spots of Korea.
We now present a light music for violin. Pyongyang is best.
liquidation of past is an unavoidable legal and moral duty of Japan. Another materials were recently discovered in Japan, proving the involvement of the military and the foreign ministry in the criminal sexual slavery for the old Japanese army. 23 official documents newly collected by the Cabinet Office include a report made by the Japanese consulate in China, which said that the ground force intends to ask for at least one waitress for 70 soldiers, and special women came down south in a military vehicle. Another report explained that the waitresses and special women are like prostitutes and forced to do indecent jobs. Experts said those documents clearly show that the military and the foreign ministry were serving comfort women from a national point of view, and maintain that they prove the involvement of the military admitted by Connor in his press statement in 1993. The nefarious immoral crimes committed by the Japanese imperialists with deep involvement of the state are the truth of history which can be neither erased nor buried. Now, international moves are strengthened to correct the wrong past and open a new era of reconciliation and cooperation. Some time ago, the German Chancellor visited the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp of Nazi Germany in Poland to cherish the memory of the victims of genocide and apologize for the war crimes committed by Nazi Germany. Saying she is deeply ashamed of the brutal crimes, the German Chancellor stated that forgetting the past will lead to another atrocities like the genocide of Jews. She affirmed that remembering the perpetrators is an eternal responsibility of the Germans, which cannot be separated from the state of Germany, and that sincere efforts for apology and compensation will continue. On the contrary, Japan is making desperate efforts to bury in the darkness of history its tremendous immoral crimes of having gang-raped a lot of women, including 200,000 Korean women in an organized way by invoking state power before killing them. Abe and his group make offers that there are no materials proving forcible drafting of comfort women for the old Japanese army, and that they gave voluntary services for money-making and obstruct the description of the facts related to the crimes of sexual slavery in the history textbooks. They attempt to prevent the statues of sexual slaves for the old Japanese army from being set up in different parts of the world, as they indict the atrocities of the brutes who regarded women as the plaything of the aggressor troops. They even wrote in the 2019 diplomatic blue paper that the expression of sexual slavery for the old Japanese army should not be used as it goes against the fact. It clearly shows the nature and moral vulgarity of the savage insular country Japan to repeat its crime-woven past in disregard of the correct stand to break with the wrong past and live as a proud member of the international community. Liquidation of the past is an unavoidable legal and moral duty of Japan and a strict demand of the international community and mankind.
You've been listening to an account titled Liquidation of Past is an Unavoidable Legal and Moral Duty of Japan. This is Voice of Korea.
Dear listeners, with this we conclude the English language service of Voice of Korea from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Voice of Korea presents its English language service for Europe between 15 and 16 hours UTC, between 18 and 19 hours UTC, between 21 and 22 hours UTC, and between 13 and 14 hours UTC on 7,570 kHz and 12,015 kHz. For North America, between 15 and 16 hours UTC and between 13 and 14 hours UTC on 9,435 kHz and 11,710 kHz. And for Northeast Asia, between 4 and 5 hours UTC and between 6 and 7 hours UTC on 7,220 kHz, 9,435 kHz, and 9,730 kHz. Goodbye, this is Pyongyang.